New smart meters can send updates every 15 seconds from every electrical outlet in your smart home.
Before your brand can take off or take over, you need valid science.
Our crudest forms of energy production is now greenwashed.
At the back-to-school vaccination drive.
But it's been approved by the FDA, and it's fine in moderation.
Donald Rumsfeld got it approved. His job is to kill people. The real-life Jets.
If you want to see how you're going to live in the spectacular world of the future, meet Mr. Robot.
Do any of you not own a cell phone?
No, I own like 4.
I sure do, yes I do.
Our story begins with a humble toy maker and his faithful machine. One day, he had an idea for a new kind of machine.
Do you think America's still free?
Yes.
To an extent.
Not exactly.
Remote control capabilities and nearly indestructible parts made Mr. Robot's design superior to that of you and me.
Do you see other people around on cell phones and wonder if they're losing touch with reality or anything?
Disconnected all the time. They're reconnected to something else rather than reality, yeah.
Do you ever feel like you have a relationship with your cell phones like you would with a person?
She calls it her baby sometimes.
That's a lie. No,
that is true.
That's a lie.
Should his mouth look friendly or sinister?
Technology has freed us because of the access to information.
The new iPhone, the new whatever. It's a trendy thing too.
I also think in another way, it's made us its dependent, because in a lot of ways we can't exist anymore without it. I mean, there's no going back.
That's all we do now, as if we were to come together at a social event, all we do is take pictures, go on the internet, go on our phones.
I think a lot of us are influenced by so many things.
A lot of people are going to start questioning that, and I see people have started questioning that.
Here, a large injection molding machine can churn out all of Mr. Robot's parts in about 3 seconds.
As a millennial, I think we definitely, if I didn't have this, I would never be able to talk to her. So I think it expands our horizons. But I mean, I guess you can definitely say that it cuts us off from the people around us.
Because there is very much a disconnect. If you're constantly surrounded by tailor-made information, and it's designed to get a very real impulse out of you, whether it's you vote for this or you buy this.
Mr. Robot is programmed with voice commands, and his state-of-the-art engineering is a cutting-edge feat of modern technology. That men serve machines to make robots for men is only appropriate.
I can see how putting too much of a predilection on the fake, the imaginary, rather than what we can see, has probably detrimented us.
You spend all your time on your cell phone, that's what you're going to think.
Now comes an arm, and then the head.
Do you think that this government would experiment on its own citizens without letting them know?
They're doing it right now.
Via the magic of remote control, Mr. Robot takes commands. Forwards, backwards, any direction.
This is kind of conspiratorial. If they're capable of doing mind control with certain technologies?
I don't believe that's possible.
Can control a person's thoughts?
Not exactly. I don't, no, I've never been aware of that, Obviously read stuff about that, but I really don't think, that type of technology would be available.
You can give people drugs and then control their mind. You can give people drugs and keep them going back to doing whatever you want them to do.
I do know there's a couple of drugs that can affect the way that a person may behave or act. I can't imagine how they would do that.
Yeah, definitely by advertisements and stuff.
The media
can affect the brain, but I don't think it's something that can be done remotely through a device yet.
All the bugs worked out, tested, finalized, and approved.
Subliminal messaging that is used by companies in order to have their products be bought by people over other products.
What we wear, what we think, it's really influenced just by the internet.
Kind of like a Skinner's box. You constantly reward people, they're going to be addicted to the sensation of reward.
Mr. Robot is packed into his own little box. All he needs now is his own personality.
We allow them to look at our phones when we let them look at our minds. And again, that's something the American people decide.
But we would have no way of knowing.
And he's ready to take over the entire world.
They want to be able to control how you receive this information.
Look at all the nifty things Mr. Robot can do. He can make deliveries, talk on the phone, and complete all necessary labor on command. He can also look right through you with his X-ray eyes. Or perhaps he is only looking into the future.
In an era of omnipresent technology and ever-increasing automation, it seems human programming is a foregone conclusion. What will remain? Has man become nothing more than another machine to be tinkered with and mastered with a few relatively simple designs?
George Orwell once wrote, "The last bastion of freedom is the few cubic centimeters inside your skull." As long as your thoughts are your own private possession, you are still free.
Only when you know the question will you know what the answer means.
Give us the ultimate question then.
I can't, but there is one who can. A computer that will calculate the ultimate question. A computer of such infinite complexity that life itself will form part of its operational matrix. And you yourselves shall take on new, more primitive forms and go down into the computer to navigate its 10-million-year program. I shall design this computer for you, and it shall be called...
Remember me! Remember me! Remember me!
With social media sites being used by 1/3 of the entire world, they've clearly had a major influence on society. But what about our bodies? Here are 5 crazy ways that social media and the internet are affecting your brain right now. Can't log off? Surprisingly, 5 to 10% of internet users are actually unable to control how much time they spend online. Though it's a psychological addiction as opposed to a substance addiction, brain scans of these people actually show a similar impairment of regions that those with drug dependence have. Specifically, there's a clear degradation of white matter in the regions that control emotional processing, attention, and decision making. Because social media provides immediate rewards with very little effort required, your brain begins to rewire itself, making you desire these stimulations, and you begin to crave more of this neurological excitement after each interaction. Sounds a little like a drug, right? We also see a shift when looking at multitasking. You might think that those who use social media or constantly switch between work and websites are better at multitasking, but studies have found that when comparing heavy media users to others, they perform much worse during task switching tests. Increased multitasking online reduces your brain's ability to filter out interferences and can even make it harder for your brain to commit information to memory. Like when your phone buzzes in the middle of productive work. Or wait, did it even buzz? Phantom vibration syndrome is a relatively new psychological phenomenon where you think you felt your phone go off, but it didn't. In one study, 89% of test subjects said they experienced this at least once every 2 weeks. It would seem that our brains now perceive an itch as an actual vibration from our phone. As crazy as it seems, technology has begun to rewire our nervous system, and our brains are being triggered in a way they never have before in history. Social media also triggers a release of dopamine, the feel-good chemical. Using MRI scans, scientists found that the reward centers in people's brains are much more active when they're talking about their own views as opposed to listening to others. Not so surprising, we all love talking about ourselves, right? But it turns out that while 30 to 40% of face-to-face conversations involve communicating our own experiences, around 80% of social media communication is self-involved.
Today, we'll be discussing something that has become quite prevalent in society, smartphone addiction. Here are some facts for you. 58% of smartphone users don't go more than an hour without checking their phone. The most frequent users are those aged between 18 and 34. There are 6.8 billion smartphones in the world, and only 3.2 billion people own them. For every 100 milliseconds in page load time, sales decrease by 1%. 57% of mobile customers will leave your site if it takes more than 3 seconds for a page to load. 38% of 2-year-olds use mobile devices. Look at these comparisons. It took radio 35 years to reach 50 million users, whereas it only took Facebook 3.5 years. The internet itself took 4 years to reach that milestone, whereas it only took Angry Birds a minuscule 35 days. 89% of students reach for their phone within 15 minutes of waking. 67% of cell owners find themselves checking for messages, alerts, or calls even when they didn't notice their phone ringing or vibrating. 75% of Americans bring their phone to the bathroom. How do you feel when you misplace your phone? 73% of people feel panicked, where 6% actually feel relieved. Let's count off where US adults use their smartphones the most. 9% use them during sex. There must be some outrageous selfies floating around. 35% in a movie theater, 33% on a date, 32% at their child's school function, 55% unsafely whilst driving, 12% in the shower, and 19% in church. While smartphones are addictive, understanding why is key to developing successful mobile strategies. Visit www.bazinga.com.au today to get started.
What if you could control your dreams? Fly over the Grand Canyon. Visit a beautiful island. Or perhaps go back in time to the age of dinosaurs. Now you can. Meet iBand Plus, the EEG brain-sensing headband for inducing lucid dreams and improving sleep. What is a lucid dream? A lucid dream is any dream in which you become aware that you're dreaming without you actually waking up. Dreams occur almost always when you are in the rapid eye movement phase, also known as the REM phase of your sleep. In REM phase, your brain activity is different than in the other phases of your sleep cycle. iBand Plus accurately senses this dream phase by monitoring variations in your brain waves. Once iBand Plus senses this dream phase, it plays audio-visual cues. These subtle external stimuli of light patterns via the LEDs on iBand Plus and sound appear as anomalies in your dream, making you aware that you are dreaming without them waking you up. Once you are lucid in a dream, you can take control of your dream actions and consciously reshape the dream to fulfill any fantasy. Your wildest desires unrestrained by the laws of physics or society. Lucid dreams are vivid and highly immersive. Once in lucid dream, you enter a virtual world where everything you see, hear, touch, taste, and smell is as authentic as reality. Lucid dreaming has been researched scientifically. Many psychologists and researchers have recognized that lucid dreams can help with artistic creativity, problem solving, improving sports and language skills, and can even help people prone to nightmares to get their fears under control.
The Aurora is a comfortable headband that you wear to sleep that actively monitors your sleep stages throughout the night. Not only does it sense brain waves, but it also contains an accelerometer that tracks body movements. Dreams occur almost exclusively during REM, which is just one sleep state of many that we cycle through multiple times each night.
When you're dreaming, the Aurora plays audiovisual cues to help you recognize that you're in a dream.
These cues are designed to be subtle enough that they find their way into your dream without actually waking you up.
And usually when this happens and you become aware of the safety of the world that you're in, you can do anything you want and really take control of the events of the dream, or just sit back and enjoy it and watch it as it unfolds in front of you.
It's good to be here. My name is Steve Hoffman, but in Silicon Valley they call me Captain Hoff. That is my nickname. I am the captain of Founderspace, and Founderspace is an incubator and accelerator. It went black. Here we go. Yeah, an incubator and accelerator that works all over the world. So I spend 70% of my time traveling the globe looking at new technology. We have over 50 partners in 22 countries. And Founderspace has been rated by Forbes magazine as the #1 accelerator for overseas startups in Silicon Valley. We have had many famous startups in our co-working space, Soma Central, like Instagram, AngelList, Foursquare, and today I'm going to talk about some of the technologies that most fascinate me. So, technologies are the future of the brain, our human brain, and where it is headed with technology. So if we examine our brain, we will realize that for over 100,000 years, our brain has remained the same. But the world around us has changed radically. So think about it. We have the same brain as a prehistoric cave person, as a Neanderthals, it's the same brain. But the world has totally changed. That is the power of our brain. It's very elastic. It can reprogram itself. But now, we're going to begin to change our brains. And we are doing this with new technology. Now, some of the basic technology out there, EEG, allows you to actually measure your brain waves. And these devices can tell if your concentration levels. They can be used to actually move a cursor on a screen. There are applications for these devices in entertainment. They're working on them for controls for games. In medical, these devices are being used for conditions like PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and ADHD, and other conditions. And they're being used for education. They have applications now for children to study. And they measure their concentration levels and can actually change the applications as the children learns. But where we're headed, and let me tell you, 1 minute, is these devices are now capable of actually recording dreams, but not in a very granular way. In a very primitive way, they can actually capture and identify what a person is dreaming. So they have done studies where they've hooked these devices up to a person's head, they've had them dream, they woke them up, and then they asked them to recall memories in their dreams. And they read the patterns of the brain. And then the person goes back to sleep, and if they dream of the same things, they can recognize those patterns. That is just the beginning of where we are headed. Right now, scientists in laboratories around the world are developing brain chips. Now, these are chips that can be inserted into the brain, and they are wireless. And let me show you. They have actually had a monkey that broke its back. So its spinal cord was severed. The monkey was paralyzed from the waist down. But they inserted a chip in the monkey's brain, and then they inserted another chip in its lower spine. And they allowed the brain to communicate with the lower spine. As soon as they did this, the monkey could walk again. That is amazing. Totally amazing. So they could actually transmit the thoughts of the monkey wirelessly to parts of the body. But it gets even more amazing than that. So they now have, in a laboratory, monkeys with chips in their brain. And then they have an electric wheelchair. And just by thinking, Just with the thought of the monkey, they can drive the wheelchair around. Think about that. If a monkey can do that, what could you do if you had that chip in your brain? They have also done experiments with monkeys with a chip in their brain and a robotic arm. And the monkey, just by thinking, can reach out and grab something like food and feed itself. That is amazing if you think about it. So the monkey's thoughts are actually able to control things outside their body. So when we start to think about the future, about where technology is headed, this is where we're going. We will have brain chips in humans. And the people who will get those brain chips first are people who suffer from severe medical conditions. So if you have a severe medical condition, like you're paralyzed from the neck down, or you suffer a brain disorder like Alzheimer's disease or Parkinson's disease, and that brain chip can restore your quality of life, would you hesitate to get the chip? No, of course not. You would say, put the chip in my brain. So that is starting right now, these experiments. And even more interesting, scientists have done experiments with rats, and they have chips in the rat's brain. And what they did was they taught a rat how to do certain things. And when the rat did all these complex things, it could get food. Now, it took the rat weeks to learn that. Weeks. But then they hooked the rat's brain chip to the internet. And they had another rat in another city. And instantly they connected those two rats' brains. And do you know what happened? The other rat knew how to get the food right away. It didn't have to learn anything. The knowledge was transferred from one brain of a living animal to another brain. That is amazing. That opens up a world of possibilities, because if they can do that in rats today, imagine 10 years from now what they can do in humans. And we will go there. So, mind-to-mind communication. This is something of science fiction that we all read about. But this is actually possible today, as I just showed you. So there will come a point where if we have a chip in our brain, and you out there have a chip in your brain, we can communicate. We can communicate without talking. We can communicate when you're halfway around the world. And we can exchange knowledge. So, if you look at a world where we have these chips that are connected to the internet, all of a sudden, every piece of information on the internet becomes accessible to our minds. Now, when we look back at today and we have to go to Baidu or Google and type it in, that will seem so primitive. Nobody will do that. You will just think, what knowledge do I need? And it will appear there for you to use. But it gets even weirder, stranger, because we will not only be able to transfer knowledge, but we will be able to transfer memories. Now, so you could have an experience like skydiving, and all of a sudden you could transfer that experience to a friend, and all of a sudden they have experienced what you have experienced. It gets even weirder, because we will be living our lives as our lives. We know our lives and our memories. But you will all of a sudden have access to anybody's life who wants to make it available to you. People will open source their lives so others can download pieces of their lives and experience those things. That will be really strange. We won't know the difference between our own memory and a memory we acquired from someone else. Think about that. It gets even stranger. So, all of us are here learning at CEBS, right? Getting EMBAs and MBAs. Well, this will be obsolete, because CEBS will literally be in the cloud. And you will just download from all the best minds in the world whatever you need to know when you need to know it. Our brains we will no longer have universities as we have them today. That will change. Information will be on demand. Information will be commoditized. Knowledge will be commoditized. All of us will be smarter, have infinite amounts of storage, and infinite access to information. It will be unheard of. We will no longer be this isolated human being. We will be connected to everything. So, you can imagine not only will we be able to get knowledge, but we can actually have full experiences in our head. So right now we have these clunky VR units that we have to put on. But in the future, you can just download a whole environment and actually live in it. And all of you might think, this is not real. But do you know, every night when you dream, those dreams are real. No matter how fantastic your dreams are, they are real. You feel like you're really there. Our brains have that capability already built in. All it takes is the technology to stimulate and transfer the right images in our brain, so our brain creates them, and then we will live like the difference between us dreaming and reality will be blurred. We will be spending a lot of time outside our bodies. So, think about this. You, as a human being right now, are trapped in this body. But once you are connected to the internet, you are no longer trapped in your body. You can actually be anywhere at any time that any other person or any other device is getting sensory information. So there could be a robot on Mars, and you could literally tap into the robot on Mars, and it would be like you're on Mars. It could totally recreate the experience, including the sensations, the physical sensations, like everything of you being on Mars. You can live through other people. Your favorite pop star, your favorite scientist. You could be in Elon Musk's head right now, walking around doing what he's doing, if Elon Musk allowed you to do that. It gets so strange because our senses now, we have our 5 senses of our body. But suddenly, if we are connected to a world of intelligent machines and intelligent sensors all over, we will no longer have 5 senses. We will have access to hundreds of sensory input. Infrared, right? All these UV, all these different types of senses that we never even experienced before. It will radically change how we perceive existence. So if you start to go down this path, you see we won't even be, our life today will be totally alien to us. We will be living in a whole nother reality that is blending information, sensory information, data information, memories, all of this from all around the world in this vast internet. And that will and can happen. So let's go even further. Experiencing other lives. So all of us experience things in our life. But now we will be able to have many lives. You can have many lives because you can access other people and other places and live through them. And if you want to think about this, it can be almost like heaven. Why do I say this? Because if you study every major religion in the world, every religion, Buddhism, Christianity, Hinduism, what those religions promise us is that we will escape our bodies in the future. We will go to some heaven or nirvana or a state of non-being or a state of inclusiveness with everybody. No longer will we and our consciousness be confined to our bodies as an individual. In fact, if you look at us right now as a human being, if I feel pain, if I'm in pain, nobody else can feel the pain I feel. If you're in pain, I can't feel your pain. I can feel sorry for you, I can empathize with you, but I cannot feel your pain. But in this world, we will actually be able to feel the emotions of other people. You can actually not just transfer data and sensory information, but emotions. I would know your pain, you would know our pain, and human beings would never be alone. So, we will come to a point where we, as gods, like gods, will be creating our own reality. We will be redefining what the human experience is for the first time in history. This can happen, and it will happen, but what we want to think about is this. Technology is really powerful. The internet, being connected, is really powerful, but we've already seen in a very primitive way, just with our cell phones, these primitive devices, how it can totally change our life. Like all of our lives are changed by WeChat. All of our lives are changed by the internet. Well, we are embarking on a path now where we will become the internet. The internet will become us. They will be inseparable. We'll have our storage and everything else all over the place. And when we do that, we have to understand that this is a big responsibility. It's something we as a society, we as the human race, must think about very, very carefully. Because imagine, people can hack your cell phone now. People can hack your computer, and it can be bad. They can steal your banking information, take all your money. They can steal your identity, but they can't really hurt you. In the future, though, if somebody hacks into your head because it's connected to the internet, they can steal you. They could actually steal you. They can implant memories in your head that you don't have. They could erase memories. They could control you in ways that you wouldn't even know you're being controlled. Is this scary? So I painted on the hand a heaven, but there is also a hell, right? This is heaven and hell. We are on the cusp of this technology that is so powerful and has the potential to so radically transform our lives and our existence, and we have to be very careful about how we do this. We don't want people controlling us. So think about this. Think very carefully. Everybody in this room are very smart people. You're all highly educated. We are going to be making these decisions that lay the groundwork for this technology in our lifetime.